Everyone, I'm Joel,
And I'm Lana.
and this is the End of the Day show. On today's episode, we talk a lot about joy in marriage and pregnancy announcements
And loss.
and loss. And yeah, if you enjoy the episode, we ask that you follow along, and thanks for joining us. We want to be a little bit more lighthearted.
Yeah. We're not always the most lighthearted people, though. We're both pretty heavy-handed.
I know. And we are in not the easiest season, but I think we need to sort of find joy and major on the minor key of joy.
Joy?
So sort of that idea of whatever is scarce or is valuable, but also that's the thing that should be pursued on and sought for,
Yeah.
People's treasure often isn't their most overwhelming resource, if that makes sense.
Because it's rare and it's precious.
Because it's rare and precious, yeah.
You want to hold on to every last little bit that they have.
I do like our dynamic.
Okay.
I think there's joy in our dynamic, and I think I really like talking with you, but also making fun of you. But having
fun with it.
Yeah. Having sort of that playful banter. And
I think we make people uncomfortable sometimes.
Right.
Because we have fun and we kind of have our back and forth banter. And then people are like, are they okay? Are they going to go home and break up?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. We are almost definitely never going to break up. But we also are not the most lighthearted people.
Yeah.
So maybe because people know we're not the most lighthearted, and because people understand that we're broke, that when we do start picking at each other, even though it's in a fun way, I think sort of the expectation is oh boy, things are coming apart at the seams.
I think, but we're cautious. We know what the triggers are.
Right.
And so we avoid those. And so we know we're fine and that we're just kind of playing around. But other people are like, oh crap.
Yeah.
What's happening?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a time that you can think of that we had a lot of joy?
Probably when we were first married. We were kind of in that ignorant bliss stage. Just everything was exciting. Our first Costco trip was exciting. You weren't stressed out by Costco yet, except for when we went to Tay and you saw how much it was.
Costco is either always going to be stressful for me, or eventually I'll get to a point where either we're comfortable enough with our finances or I'm dead. But it seems like we can't leave Costco without spending $350.
Minimum.
The cart was not even halfway full and it was $2.90. And then we spent $30 buying dinner or buying lunch at Costco. And it's this is supposed to be a cheap lunch. What the heck?
Yeah, no, Costco wasn't meant to be cheap. I used to have a goal for myself that I would go in and come out spending under $100.
Yeah.
Going in for just some essentials. And every time I did it, the cashiers were like, how did you do that? Right. How did you only spend less than $100?
Just crazy.
I was it was a goal. And I said no to everything I wanted.
Yeah. Let's start doing more of that.
I mean, we're feeding 6 people.
Yeah.
So it's a little hard, fruits and veggies. And
I think I'll just give you $100 bill and take away your bank cards. Just yeah, you got to go to Costco.
That sounds like torture. So here, take these pennies and feed a family.
Yeah, right. So crazy. Yeah. I think for me, there's never been a lack of joy. But there's been seasons where it's oh, we're not having a good time right now.
Yeah.
But I don't dwell in those seasons. Like once they're over, I don't look back and be like, man, half this year sucked. I hate being married or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, half the year did suck, but Christmas is coming or whatever. Easter is coming.
There's something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we don't dwell on it too long. Like we know it's a season. And we know that there's hard seasons and good seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever we're in a hard season, it's like, okay, we just got to get through this.
Yeah.
And like something better will be around the corner. It might not be like the end all be all, but it's like something better than this. So and we're just going to hold on to that hope. Oh, like,
yeah.
Well, if tomorrow's not better, maybe the next day will be. Or at least maybe that's just me.
So you talked about 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Anything in the last decade that was like a special time or?
I think we've had a lot of special times. I mean, it's always, yeah, I don't know. We've had a lot of changes. And so that's always exciting. You know, a new adventure, a new change, and the anticipation that goes with that. And then, yeah, I don't know. There's nothing that like sticks out in my mind.
Right.
As like a flashing red sign or a flashing sign. You know, you?
It's just been really nice when the kids have gone away.
See ya.
Like either I think it's only happened twice since we started having kids, but we get to go to a hotel for 2 nights.
Mm-hmm.
Or one of our parents is like, okay, I'll take all your kids for a couple of days in a row.
Yeah.
And that's been really nice. I like those times, which I think gives me hope. Because I know that for kids 10 and under, life is supposed to be hard.
Yeah.
Right? But that as they grow up and gain more independence, it's like we still like each other because it's those moments that have so much joy, right?
I think
it's not just about reconnecting.
No.
You know, it's not.
Yeah. No, I think it's because it reminds you that you can still breathe. Like because you're in the chaos.
Yeah.
And then it's not even that it's exciting that the kids aren't there. It's just without everyone pulling you in different directions and you're just with each other, you remember that you can breathe. You remember to breathe. And then you just feel a little bit refreshed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, it's not always going to be this crazy and this chaotic. And yeah, it's just like a little reminder.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I think, there's sort of a trend in Instagram Reels or whatever where it's like, when you realize you don't hate each other, you just needed to get your kids away from you. Yeah. It's like, honestly, our life is like that a lot. Not where we are in the throes of hate with each other while we have our kids around us. But it feels like we're just united, but being squashed by the weight of the kids.
Yeah.
Quite a bit, right?
Yeah.
Which is sort of a good thing.
Yeah.
It's good to like hold the weight of your kids in your marriage, but also be willing to let them go.
Yeah. I think that's something we've been maybe, I don't know, good at, but like we hold them close, but we don't hold them so close that we never get a break.
Right.
Right? Like, yeah. If a grandparent offers to take them, we like jump at the opportunity, not because we want to unload them, but it's like, oh, this is a great opportunity for the kids and we're going to get a refresh.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone comes back, having a great time. And then you can restart.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been interesting having moved away from grandparents.
It's been hard.
It's been so hard.
Kind of brutal. I don't know how people do it who don't have grandparents or, have just never lived near the grandparents. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, I don't think. I always want to say, like, this is the hardest thing we ever have to experience, and then we'll get through it.
Yeah.
But I find myself, I've said that in a couple of different seasons. And it's like, oh.
Yeah. It's a cycle.
is this a season or a pattern, right?
Yeah.
But now that we've moved away and people come to visit,
Yeah.
sort of the old habits that you were in while we were around your parents or my parents, where it was like, hey, can you just watch the kids? We're going to go for breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
I feel sort of bad asking for that when people come to visit us because they want to see all of us.
Yeah.
They don't just want to become babysitters.
Yeah.
But we so desperately need, it feels like we so desperately need a bit of a break. And our families are really generous with
I
us.
think they're very understanding about that because, like, I've communicated a few times, like, oh, it's okay, like, we'll stay and we'll hang out. They're like, no, we're here for you guys. Like, go, we'll take the kid.
Yeah.
Which is really nice. It's nice that they're so understanding in that way. First big cough.
Get a camera shot.
Mm.
I don't know. Do you want to talk about what happened last week?
What happened last week?
With the idea of a new baby?
What do you want me to say about it?
Well, I am really looking forward to our kids growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that is a major source of like my coping right now, where it's like, oh man, it's okay.
Yeah.
We're almost out of diapers, or
Yeah.
Zeke is finally old enough to stay away from us for 2 hours at a time, or 4 hours at a time.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it feels like we're getting closer and closer to the independence that you and I love.
That we've been looking forward to.
That we've been looking forward to for the last 10 years. But there was a bit of a, I don't know,
hiccup.
Bit of a pregnancy scare. Not really a scare. Chemical pregnancy last week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the head games that did to us.
Yeah. First of all, women's bodies suck. Just because there's a lot that goes on, right? Like, everything is a mind game. Everything, you think you know your body so well, and then hormones and everything throws it out of whack. But yeah, we had a chemical pregnancy, which is basically just, it's like the earliest form of miscarriage. You get a positive pregnancy test, and then within the week, basically, your period comes, and it just doesn't stick because your hormones aren't doing the job and doubling like they should. And so, yeah, it was a bit of a mind game because we have been fairly open with each other about how we are very content in this season. When Zeke was born, I cried. I think it was the first delivery I actually cried at because I realized I never have to do this again. And so it was a little bit scary. Like, we had a couple scares, meaning just late months, that turned into nothing. And I would almost get angry because I didn't want to go through that. Not that I didn't want another kid. It was just I didn't want to go through all of that again. It's like super hard on my body and sounds selfish. I don't like how selfish that sounds.
Yeah.
But it was scary. Like, there have been a couple deliveries where it very quickly could have gone south, or just going through a delivery could have ended really badly for some of them. And so, yeah, there was a lot of fear when I saw the positive. Just a lot of fear went through my mind. But it was also the first time that it was kind of like being a little bit at peace with, like, if this is something that happens or is happening, then I need to be at peace with that and learn to get excited about that. But I think every pregnancy has kind of had that edge to it, where, like, see the positive and you're kind of like, oh my gosh, like this is happening, And so, yeah, I don't know. It was a tough couple of days just because we've been so open with each other about.
Well, talking about how we're so excited to move on to the next stage. And I've quite a bit where I've said, like, honestly, I sort of attach a sense of freedom and independence for you and I to the timeline a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, like, in 5 years, Zeke will be 7.
Yeah.
And that's very much in the range of, like, he can just be babysat all day by his sisters, and
Well, and I've kind of always wanted to be done having kids by the time I was 30 because, we kind of wanted to be the young parents and then young grandparents if that's in the cards.
Yeah.
And, just kind of hitting those milestones at an early stage so that we can enjoy our lives to the fullest when we have energy.
Yeah. And it's funny, like every time I meet somebody new and I tell them that, like, I'm 32 with 4 kids, the oldest is 10.
Yeah.
They're like, wow, you had kids so young.
Yeah.
It's like, it's true. And then they say, well, that means that you'll, be 40 and all your friends will just be having kids and you'll have like teenagers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. But like my mid 40s or late 40s, I'll be like free.
Yeah.
Right. And then not in a super negative way, but every kid we've had after the first, like, that's okay. I can push the timeline back 2 years. I can push the timeline back. And then there's a,
almost 4-year gap.
There's a 4-year gap. And then it's like, okay, I can push the timeline back. I'm still young. And then we had Zeke and I'm like, oh, like, I'm having Zeke at 30. I'm going to be 48, 49 by the time this kid is graduating.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, okay. We're not so young then anymore. Still younger than some people who are just starting to have their families at 32 or 33. Yeah. And so I've been really sort of honed in on this timeline now because we have both decided Zeke is our last, but haven't done any permanent preventative measures, no permanent preventative measures. And I am not so sold on a permanent preventative measure anymore. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, okay, there's a bit of a risky game we're playing. And I feel like I put you potentially in a bad spot because I was so excited about this timeline and being free and talking about having more independence and all of these things. Where when you got a positive test, that you weren't comfortable telling me right away.
Yeah, I was a little bit worried about how you would react. Yeah. Just because, like, we are in a different stage than we've ever been in. Like, we can go for a walk and, just have a little bit more independence in building into our relationship outside of our home because the kids are more independent and, we don't have a baby attached to our hip anymore, or I don't have a baby attached to my hip anymore. And so it's a new season. I don't think we've ever had, like, because Zeke turns 3, I don't think we've ever had like a 3-year-old
and not pregnant
and not been pregnant
or with a baby
already. Yeah, because they're either 2 years apart or 3.5 years apart. So it's like completely new territory for us. He's basically potty trained. We've never had, this is all new.
Yeah.
And so I think I was a little bit worried because, there's just been a lot of talk of like, this is awesome. We're in a new stage. We're closing a chapter. And then it was like, bang, pregnancy test positive. Like you said, we haven't done anything permanent, but there have been preventative measures. And it was kind of like, oh, God really wanted this baby to come about. Shoot, okay, I got to get on board with that. But it was such a faint line that, it's not my first chemical pregnancy. And so I think I've had two before. And so it was just kind of that familiar feeling of like, okay, either it's going to get darker if I keep testing, or I'll get my period soon and I'll be over. And so I didn't want to put you through that full emotional roller coaster of like having, the shock and then the roller coaster of just like, oh my gosh, okay, we're going back into this season and I gotta get excited about this, and then being excited because we're always excited about a new baby.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes it just takes a little bit of like coming out of the shock to get there. And so just knowing how light the line was and how late I already was, it was just kind of like I didn't want to put you through the unnecessary roller coaster that I was going through, which wasn't exactly the right move because we're a team and we walk through everything together. But I think I was just scared because the previous months were, I wasn't sure. My body's been acting up. So
Yeah.
not everything is always predictable. And so it was just, yeah, I don't know. I think it was just, I was scared, I think. But it's also the first time since Zeke was born that I was like, okay, the kids are all in a new stage. We could do this again. Well, we could,
Yeah.
But it was also like, oh my goodness, this is the first year we're homeschooling. We don't have like pregnancies or babies. Like I actually have more energy. I'm not divided between like nursing and multiplication. Like it was just kind of this surreal moment of like, okay, we're going back. We're going back. We're going back to that stage. Okay, get ready. And it was, the mental prep, right?
Right. I think for me, it was like when you sort of finally let me into the loop,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh man, she doesn't trust me.
I
And
can do that.
it might not be that, but it certainly felt like it, where because we don't really keep things from each other, and it wasn't even, you didn't even keep it from me for very long. Like,
It's like 12 hours.
yeah. Well,
No, maybe.
I think 30 hours or something.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, because he,
Like a day. I tested the day before, and then I let you know the next day.
right. Yeah, it's like, it's one of those, yeah, you let me know the next day, and it was fine. Like, there's not a timeline where, like, you have to let me know the minute you take a pregnancy test or anything.
Yeah.
But I think what happened in between was really what got at me,
Mm-hmm.
because you took a positive test, and then you had a conversation, you started a conversation with me where you were sort of testing me.
That was my best moment.
That was like, I didn't even notice in the moment that you were potentially being serious about being pregnant again or anything.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you believe you're about to have another baby. Yeah, I maybe said some things that I wouldn't have said if I knew that you had taken a positive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is one of those, like, moments in your life where you just have to reevaluate your current trajectory, and you have to sort of be like, okay, we obviously are going to make room for another baby in our life,
Mm-hmm.
whether it was a emergency foster care situation or an adoption
Mm-hmm.
situation or natural pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if a baby needs a home,
Mm-hmm.
we'll try and be that home.
Yeah.
And we've always sort of had that.
Yeah, I think we've always talked about how we were done in our minds, done growing our family naturally. But if a baby was to come to us or a child was to come to us in some means,
Mm-hmm.
whether emergency fostering or something like that, that we would open our home and try to love on kids as much as we could.
Yeah.
And grow our family that way. But yeah.
Yeah.
It was an interesting moment.
Yeah.
And then it ended up being just like a hard weekend overall because, the shock of, oh my gosh, there's a positive line to, oh my gosh, my period's here now.
Yeah.
And then just my body, in excruciating pain.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of like it's like you come to terms with the reality of like, okay, this is done now. But then your body is like, I'm just going to keep reminding you now that you're healing and that you're recovering. And it's like hard physically and mentally. And then, in the same weekend, finding out that one of my friends passed away, it was like, okay, this is like this is a heavy weekend.
Yeah. But then,
yeah,
like, our kids are on something that weekend too.
oh, what they're on.
Like, there's some kind of
Crazy
psychotic intuition that kids have that, like, when mom or dad are having a hard time, or when there's expectation around a special day like Mother's Day or Father's Day or something, that they just become extra bad.
Yeah.
It is tough. And so really trying to work through that, like getting our oldest out to the door for church on Sunday was like, I would rather pull my own teeth out with a pair of pliers than have to go through that again.
Yeah, they sense it. They pick up on it.
Yeah.
And I think they just don't know what to do with that. And so then it like spirals them into some chaos mode of hurricane, like they just can't control their emotions. And
yeah,
it's just intense. It just like compounds.
Yeah. Compounds is a good word for it. Like
compounding chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. So all of that to say, it's hard to find seasons of life where joy overflows.
Yeah.
Right? But it is still really valued and treasured. It's just there's not a lot of it. Like other treasure.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the seasons we've been in too, it's just like there aren't these like shining moments of like this was like pure joy. But there's moments like, our youngest sneaking into bed in the morning and just like kind of popping up being like, good morning.
Yeah.
Like those are the joyful moments. Those are the kind of the things that kind of keep you going through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can we talk about positive pregnancy tests, and sort of maybe this is when you can tell me stories, because I forget how we found out we were pregnant with our kids and
your reaction
and my reaction, and sort of because I think in those moments there's a ton of joy most of the time.
Yeah.
But some pressure and stress as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So with our first, we found out on our 6-month anniversary.
Yeah.
Or it was like super close to our 6-month anniversary. And I was not feeling great. I was working full time at the hair salon. And my boss, actually, or the owner, she was like newly pregnant. And so she had just gotten to the point where she was comfortable telling us all that she was pregnant. So she was talking through all of her symptoms and everything. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. Like, one day I'm probably going to go through that. And then later that week, I was like, shoot, I think I'm late. And I think I have these like symptoms that she was talking about. And so you went off to work. You were working at Dad's shop.
Yeah.
And so you went off to the automotive shop. And I was starting at like 10 that day. It was like one of the few times I had a later shift. So I ran out to Shoppers, or as soon as you left for work.
Shoppers Drug Mart, yeah.
Yeah, and I went and bought a test, and I came home and I took it. And I didn't know what to do because I'm not good at holding secrets. I'm not good at holding things to myself. And I knew I was going to have to work a whole day of work and not see you until that evening. I was like, I actually just don't know what to do with this information right now.
Yeah.
So I went to Tim Hortons. I bought a little box of Timbits and a coffee. And on my way to work, I rolled up to your work. And Dad was inside dealing with a customer, and you were outside washing cars or something. And I like handed you this box of Timbits and a coffee, and I was like, from the both of us. And you're like, what? And then I showed you the pregnancy test, and you just went like white.
So yeah, we were only married for 6 months, which means whatever, That is what it is.
And we were young.
And
Like, you were
so
20.
young. I was 20 and you were 22.
22. You were turning 21.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, that is too young to have a baby. At least for us and for our experience, that was too young. We mentally were not mature enough to have a baby.
We hadn't had the chance to be young adults yet. Like, we didn't know. We went straight from high school, right into Bible college, and then went right into the workforce. And, like,
Yeah.
you know, didn't even finish Bible college because it was like, let's get married, let's start our life.
Also, the economics of Bible college don't really make sense if you're not paying for it up front.
It's true. It's true. And so, yeah, we were like living in this small basement suite that had a lot of issues.
Yeah.
And it was not the ideal place to raise a baby.
Yeah.
There was like mice and floods that happened and
Yeah.
all sorts of chaos.
That was so crazy.
It was crazy. And you were working at my dad's shop making like, I don't know, $10 an hour or something.
Yeah. Certainly.
And I was working at Blow making not much more, except I got to make tips. And so, like, I mean, we were starting out our life together and wanted to have kids, but not necessarily that soon.
Yeah, I think for me, I had always expected, like, maybe within the first 2 years.
Yeah.
Right? If we're lucky, we start trying in the first 2 years and we have a kid.
Yeah.
Right. But it felt like sort of the first time it could have happened, it did happen.
Not quite, but yeah.
Not quite, yeah. But
yeah. And so that was a bit of a, and we didn't even hold that in for very long. Like, most people wait until they have like their first scan or something to tell anyone. And I think like that night, because we were like, what do? We don't even know what we're supposed to do. Do we go to a doctor? Do we, like, all we had was the positive test. And so we ended up going to your sister's house that night, being like, surprise, we're pregnant, help. What do we do? Guide us, lead us. So I think she like sent us home with a whole bunch of pregnancy books and like baby naming books and all that kind of stuff. And we were like, okay, we can do this. We can do this.
And in one sense, we have done it.
Oh, yeah.
In another sense,
we have struggled our way through it.
Yeah.
We've struggled our way through it. But I think my favorite is like when Dad finally realized what was going on. Because I think it was like that same day he had texted me to be like, hey, is Joel okay today? Like, he's just been totally out of it at work. He's been like walking around like a zombie. I'm like, oh yeah, he's fine. Just big changes. It was funny. And then Hope.
Yeah. That was a tougher season for us.
That was a tougher season. After Abby was born, we moved into my parents' house because we just couldn't make it. We couldn't make ends meet. Yeah. It was, and we weren't double income anymore. And so they were gracious enough to open up their home and let us live with them. And, but that comes with its own hard season, right? It's two families blending, us learning how to be parents, them being experienced parents, but trying to give us space to figure it all out without overstepping boundaries. And it was just a lot. And so Abby's delivery was so traumatic.
Yeah, that was really tough.
And dangerous, really. Like, it was a very hard recovery, a long recovery. It was very scary. And I think we both had some level of PTSD from it. Like, I would have flashbacks and just like cry thinking about it. And after she was born, we had discovered that I had health issues. And, by the time we found out we were expecting Hope, I was finally getting my body to balance out a little bit. And it was starting to heal. And so I was scared. Like, I took the test and I was terrified. I think it's the first time I've ever been like, I don't think I can do this. Like, I don't know that I can do another pregnancy, or I don't think I can do another delivery. Because my pregnancies are great compared to most people. Like, they're actually fairly easy. But the delivery was like, I didn't want to do that again. It was scary. And so I wanted to come up with a cute way to tell you, but I was so scared for my own life, basically, that I think you came home and walked up the stairs, and I just like held the pregnancy test in front of you. Do you remember this?
Yes, I do remember
I
that.
was just like, look, and you like took a couple steps back, and you're like, okay, we're doing this again. And I wasn't mad, but I was just like, I don't know how to process this right now. Like, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what's happening, but there's a line there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we actually had her name picked out even before we got pregnant with her, because we went through such a season after Abigail was born that we had heard the name Hope. And we were like, we need a little bit of that in our life right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we both loved it.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, we had her whole name picked out.
Yeah.
Before she was even conceived.
Yeah. Well, because I think we were talking about having another kid. Because I grew up with a whole bunch of kids in my family, but you grew up
kind of lonely.
Quite an age gap.
Yeah, I have my 2 older sisters, and then
your sister.
I'm like the surprise.
Yeah. And actually, maybe not all my siblings, but certainly the ones that I'm very close in age with, I get along with really well.
Yeah.
Right. And I wanted that for my kid. So even though we were broke and young and
traumatized,
naive and traumatized and all of the things, we still wanted the ideal of having our kids close in age.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, as it goes, I don't necessarily remember trying for a long season to get pregnant, but we also weren't interfering anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was interesting. A new pregnancy in your parents' home.
Yeah. Yeah. That was, I think my dad said something along the lines of like,
you know what causes that or something?
No, it was like, oh, under my roof, hey? And I was just like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. Man.
He's cheeky like that.
He is cheeky like that.
Yeah. And then we tried for quite a while with Jude.
Yeah.
I think we were done at 2. We were content. We were pretty happy. Like, you know, we had kind of said that we're like content with 2.
Yeah. Well, 2 girls. We were living in a basement suite.
You know, really small basement.
A really small basement suite. Had a nice little life, but it was still chaotic. And
we felt at max capacity.
Yeah.
Like 2 kids. That was a season. That was like, yeah. I have all the grace for parents with 2 kids, just because going back and like thinking through that season, I didn't have the capacity to even let you volunteer at the things that you wanted to volunteer at, right? Like, you couldn't really do extra things at church, even though you were, because I was like, I need you home. Like, I can't manage 2 kids.
Yeah.
You know? So it was a bit of a crazy season too, of just desperately wanting to grow up a little bit more and be in our own space instead of in the family home.
Yeah. And living in the most expensive real estate market in the world, or one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of them in North America. Just, yeah.
And deciding to not have 2 incomes. Right. We were sort of in that stage where we realized our kids really needed hands-on affection and guidance, right?
There was just something extra going on there.
There's just something extra going on, and health battles, and we didn't realize it at the time. And so actually, parenting was harder for good reason, but it was so hard for us. And so for a while, you went back to work and I tried to stay home.
We switched roles.
That didn't work at all.
We lasted around 9 months, which, I mean, that was...
Was it 9?
It was 9 months.
Oh, man, I was so depressed.
But, like, to be fair,
you're
a way better stay-at-home dad than I am a stay-at-home mom.
Well, maybe.
I mean, you had the kids out at parks and doing picnics and, you know. I wasn't good at that. But I always struggled with postpartum depression and didn't realize that's what it was. And so I felt like I needed to be out of the home and just have some diversity in like my day-to-day life. So you were gracious enough to stay home with the kids while I went to work.
In the tiny little basement suite. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think you really had it on your heart that you really wanted a son.
I did want, yeah.
You really wanted a son, but you would come to terms with the fact that you were pretty sure you were going to be like a girl dad. And so you were okay with the idea of another girl, but you wanted to at least try and expand our family and kind of hope for a boy.
And I had a better job. And so we decided to move out.
Yeah.
Into a very tough home.
Yeah.
Home that started out with a lot of promise, but then other tenants and stuff made it really tough to live there.
Home sharing is hard.
Home sharing is
really hard. Yeah, especially when the multiple units don't have family dynamics that are even close to similar. It's hard to blend lives between walls.
Yeah, like we were renting the top half of a house that was never really meant to
be divided.
Yeah. But then a landlord created 2 extra suites in the bottom that were rented out to people that just made it really tough to live there. But you were also pregnant.
Yeah, by then I was pregnant with Jude, which is when we decided we're like, okay, we actually have to move into our own space now because there's going to be 3.
Yeah. And I do not remember being told that Jude was coming. Do you remember that story?
That Jude was coming?
Yeah, that we were pregnant with Jude.
That's a good... I don't know. This is like classic middle child.
Isn't it? I feel bad for him.
Actually, no, I do remember a little bit. I think Zeke was the first one that I included you in the process of taking a test.
So,
but I think with Jude, because we were trying, like I think he's the first one that we were actively trying to conceive. And so I think you had told me that I should go get a test or something. And I went and took a test and at home. I don't remember how I told you though.
I don't remember either. Isn't that crazy?
That's insane.
Something that's
I feel awful.
So much joy and stuff.
Oh my gosh. I feel like there was a little box. Like I feel like I had a little box and I put or a bag and I put the pregnancy test in it. And I kind of gave it to you.
This was in the basement suite.
No, we were living upstairs by then because we had moved upstairs and downstairs a couple times. Like when we first moved into the house, we had all our stuff in the 1-bedroom suite, but we lived in the 2 bedrooms upstairs. And then we moved down into the 2-bedroom suite. And then they needed to rent it out. So then we moved up into the 2 bedrooms again.
Right.
And so the 2 girls were in the middle room and we were in kind of like that bigger room above the garage. And I remember telling the girls because we wanted to include them in the process. And so after we had gone for our first scan, we like had the ultrasound pictures and we like brought them into our room. And I had these little t-shirts for them. It was like big sister shirts. And we showed them their big sister shirts. And we're like, but it's a secret. You can't tell grandma and papa. And so they like actually held on to the secret for a really long time. And like, I was pretty proud of them. I didn't think they would be able to do it. But they were so excited. They're like, this is our big secret with mom and dad. Like, no one else knows. There's a baby in mommy's tummy. And they were super involved in the process. Like they came to all the midwife appointments and
they sort of had to.
Did the Doppler and Hope was like convinced. She's like, when I grow up, I'm going to be a baby doctor. Because she just loved it so much. But yeah, other than that though, like I feel like with that one, I like put the pregnancy test in like a gift bag. Because it must have been around a holiday. I think we announced him.
It's such a blind spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, midsummer pregnancy? I don't think we announced it at Christmas.
We did announce it at Christmas. Yeah.
I started.
I'm like doing the math in my head. I'm like, okay, what's the 3 months? When did we? Yeah, but no, that one we announced at Christmas.
Yeah.
Because your mom had gotten me like this little letter board for Christmas for the Secret Santa or whatever. And so I took the letter board and I like wrote out all of our names and I put baby number 3 and like stuck it in the tree. Took a picture of it.
Cute.
Yeah. But yeah. And then with Z, he was the first one we did together, like finding out together.
Right.
Because
I think we could talk about that story a little bit.
yeah, right.
Yeah. Because there's a lot
to unpack there.
to unpack there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were living in Princeton, which is a small town.
Mm-hmm.
We were.
It was COVID.
Mm-hmm. I was no longer working.
Mm-hmm. We were doing a church plant.
We were trying to do a church plant
in the midst of COVID.
In the midst of COVID, in a town that we moved to.
3 hours away from family.
Yeah, hours away from family, navigating quite a bit of health issues with our oldest.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And you were pregnant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I found out I was pregnant. And I think we made it to about 7 weeks. Actually, no, there's a lot more to unpack there.
Because of,
Jude.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Jude was just a baby. He was 1, maybe 18 months. Less than 18 months. Just over 1. And he woke up that morning. And by the time I knew I was pregnant, I had been I've known for a couple of weeks. And he had never been sick before. Like, he was a very healthy baby. And he woke up. We went to go get him breakfast. And he threw up. I don't think he had eaten yet, but he threw up. Mm-hmm. And we were like, oh, this is new. He's never thrown up before. And so then we figured, oh, maybe he's just like super hungry and needs to eat. So we put him in his high chair, went to give him food, and he had a seizure. Mm-hmm. And went completely limp and white. And I'd grown up seeing seizures, but it's like a whole nother level when it's your own kid and they've never had one before. And it was terrifying. And so we rushed him to the hospital because we called the nurses line and they're like, you need to take him in case it happens again. And the closest well-staffed hospital. Well, no, the closest well-staffed hospital was an hour and a half drive away.
Yeah.
But we had like a clinic hospital in town. And so we did the quick 1-minute drive there and I spent the day at the hospital with him and it was stressful. Like they did all the tests and all they could come up with was that his blood sugars were off. Mm-hmm. And they were even questioning whether he had a seizure. And which is hard as a parent when you know what you saw and you know what you went through and the nurse's line is even telling you like that's a seizure, go get him in. And that just the staff was they weren't equipped to deal with that really. So it was a lot. And so I had called you because he had to get some blood tests and stuff done. And I was like, I need to go lay down for a little bit. I'm exhausted. I'm feeling nauseous.
Yeah. So you were pregnant.
I was pregnant. Yeah. I was like 7 weeks pregnant. And the morning sickness had hit. And hospital food really just wasn't doing it for me. And so you had offered, you're like, okay, I'll walk down with the girls. And we'll switch off because it was COVID. Only one parent was allowed in at a time with kids. And so we had to do this kind of awkward switch off. And so I walked home with the girls, which was only like not even a 10-minute walk. And on the way home, I felt something wrong. And I thought, oh, like I'm bleeding.
Right.
I'm not supposed to be doing that. So we rushed home and I called you. And we decided that it would be good for me to go back to the hospital and admit myself just to get monitored. So we called your mom and your mom came.
And that was a heartbreaking phone call.
That was hard.
Yeah. I was sitting there like holding Jude and realizing like my mom loves baby.
Like absolute, like she
but
She
she
can like sniff out a pregnancy.
didn't know
Yeah.
you were pregnant.
Yeah.
And we hadn't talked to anybody about the crisis we were having with Jude
Yeah.
about his seizure. And so I'm in the hospital. You're on your way. I don't know.
I think I was just getting settled at home because then
We had to wait for
we called friends to say, hey, because they had offered to watch kids
right.
because they knew Jude was in the hospital. And so then I had to call her and say, FYI, I'm pregnant. I think I'm having a miscarriage. Can you take the girls? And so I was in the process of then coming back to the hospital to get the van.
Yeah.
And then driving the girls to the friends. And I get to the house and her kids blurt out, they're like, Mommy has a baby in our tummy. And I was like, I did too. And it was like that whole, like,
tough.
It was just, it didn't hit me until I drove away and I was like, oh, like, I'm so excited for them. That's awesome. Like, they're going to have a baby without her confirming it. Like, she hadn't confirmed it yet, but it was just like, 3-year-old chatter, like, Mommy's got a baby. And so we hadn't told each other yet that we were both pregnant and the same time along. Like, we were both like 7 weeks. And so it was just that whole thing. And then you had to, so she was watching the kids until your mom was able to come.
Yeah. So I had to call my mom and tell her that A, like, don't know what's happening with you, but B, Lana is pregnant and having a miscarriage, and we need some help. And so my mom lived 2 hours away.
Yeah.
And she was there like a champ. Like, she came right away.
Yeah. Probably the fastest she's ever driven.
And was just such a support and help.
Mm-hmm.
Great. And like, that sucked. And the healthcare situation wasn't great. And I think it really helped to confirm that it was time for us to move on from living there. And honestly, living rurally in Canada is really tough for healthcare.
Yeah, it is.
Like, even now, we're 20-ish minutes away from the closest hospital in the midst of all these farming communities in Landmark or in Manitoba. We still haven't found a family doctor.
No, we're on like a super long wait list.
Yeah. And so resources are really scarce, but there's real realities dealing with it, right?
Yeah, it was hard. Like, just even laying in the hospital bed. And I was there for hours.
Yeah.
Like, they monitored me kind of overnight. And just laying there in the bed. And it was just like triaged, basically. Like, they didn't really have individual rooms. Just triage, and there's someone who's like hacking up along and puking over there, and another person who's like wheezing, sounding like they're gonna die. And it was in the middle of COVID, so I was like, are you dying?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? Am I gonna walk out of here with something that I don't want? And then the doctor comes in and takes my blood work and all that kind of stuff, and brings this dinky little ultrasound machine. And he's like, well, it's really bad quality, but like, are you sure you're actually pregnant? And just like the bedside mannerism was not there. And I was like, yeah, I'm positive. He's like, well, I don't hear a heartbeat. I don't see a baby on here. But then it is bad quality. Like, we can send you to Penticton, but it's not really worth your drive. Yeah. And like, in my mind, I'm sitting there going like, this is a life we're talking about. And you're saying it's not worth the drive to like confirm whether or not there's a baby alive in there. And and then he said, well, your numbers are going down, like your blood work numbers are going down, so sorry to break it to you, but you're having like I think he called it a naturally selective abortion. And like I wanted to look at him and be like, you need to find another way to say that. I know it's like the medical term, but to tell someone who just lost a kid, like, your body naturally aborted. Yeah. It's like, wow, that's tough. And the recovery from that, I mean, I can't imagine the women who go through a later term miscarriage because they labor their child. Like, they actually go through full-blown labor. and delivery, and then the whole healing process after that. Like, it was still early enough that, a baby wasn't formed enough to come out as a baby, right?
Yeah.
And so there was a little bit of denial there for a while where I was like, well, I didn't actually have a miscarriage, did I? Like, maybe I just got my dates wrong. But it was like, no, I was 7 weeks along. And like the tests confirmed that, the pregnancy tests and stuff. And so there was like a little bit of denial there for a while. But it felt like it took a long time for my body to recover. But obviously it didn't.
And this is the
surprise.
Yeah.
Our miracle baby.
Yeah.
I guess.
At some point.
Maybe in my grieving. I'm not very good at grieving. I'm not very good at letting myself feel things that I should feel. So I think I had a little bit of rum one night.
I don't remember that.
You're the one who told me that it was rum.
Yeah. But we obviously had a baby. Yeah.
So a month later, I was making breakfast for the kids, and we had scrambled eggs, and the smell of the eggs made me gag. And I sat there and went, there's no way. Like, there's no way that I'm pregnant. Maybe it's like residual something from the miscarriage, because it was only a month after I had miscarried, and I was pretty sure that we hadn't been together because I was healing, or, mentally healing, emotionally healing. And sure enough, we went to go get a pregnancy test. I think we went together.
Probably.
Actually, no, I think it was Jude that we went together to get a test. Anyways.
A long time ago now.
It was years ago. Anyways, sure enough, it was positive. And I remember telling my dad that, like, I was pregnant, and he was like, are you sure that you actually didn't lose the first one? Like, because he was like, I don't know, that seems like really quick to get pregnant. And I was like, no, my blood work showed that there was no longer a baby there anymore. And so for the longest time, I was convinced that he was like immaculate conception, because I was like, there's no way.
I do sort of remember a time in that month. Right.
Well, I remember like 2 years later, you had told me, you're like, I think there was one night where you had like a little bit of rum, and I don't generally drink.
Yeah.
I'll have like a tiny little bit socially, but I don't drink. And so for me to even have like a little shot of rum is like way over what I would normally do. And I don't know.
It must have happened.
I guess I was in my feels that night.
In your feels. That's hilarious.
Because later on that month, we found out I was pregnant.
Like, confusing, but also really exciting.
It was confusing and exciting. I think it kind of healed the loss a little bit. Like, I wasn't sure how to navigate the loss with the kids, because they didn't find out I was pregnant until the day I was miscarrying. And we had to tell them, like, mommy has to go to the hospital. Mommy's pregnant. And they're like, mommy's pregnant. It's like, yeah, but mommy's losing the baby. And they're like,
don't even know what that means.
They didn't know what that means. So then they were sitting there praying that mommy wouldn't lose the baby. And it was just like this whole heartbreaking cycle of like, how am I going to tell you, that it's actually over, and that you had a sibling, but now you don't have another sibling.
Yeah.
And so to help them through it, I thought, we should name this baby.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it was really early, so we don't know if it was a boy or a girl. But we were trying to think of different names that were kind of like gender neutral. And we settled on Zion, because it was like something like the gates of heaven or something. And it was like, well, this baby went to go to the gates of heaven before it was their time. So it just seemed appropriate. So the girls loved that.
Yeah.
So they still, to this day, they'll reference Zion.
Mm-hmm.
Say, do you remember Zion? That was sad. But we got Z.
Yeah. Yeah. And so our youngest,
our little Spitfire.
Our little particular child with all of his...
He was particular from the start.
Yeah. Wants to have everything perfectly in a row and be perfectly tucked in and...
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of joy in that pregnancy.
There was a lot of joy, but there's a lot of fear.
A lot of fear.
Yeah. There's a lot of uncertainty that comes with pregnancy after a loss.
Yeah.
I think that was the first pregnancy I bought one of those Dopplers, like the heart monitor, because I just needed that reassurance that like still alive, still there. I don't think I was really able to get full on excited about that pregnancy until we got halfway. And, you know, because a lot of people, if they're going to lose pregnancy, it happens in the first trimester. But some people, it happens later too.
Yeah.
And so once we were able to see the baby moving and find out what gender it was so we could name it, then it was like, okay, this is real. Like, I can relax a little bit and put my shoulders down.
Yeah. And then we moved.
Yeah. We moved back home with our family.
Chaos of moving season.
Yeah.
Yeah. We went from losing a job, losing sort of hope for the season that we were in, right? With some, whatever, ministry dreams ending and stuff like that. And then trying to figure out, how do we move? Where do we live to? How do we live?
It was like an epic transition season.
Yeah. And then we lost a baby and gained a new one, which was such a blessing.
Yeah.
But also made us be real about where we're living and why we're living there.
Yeah.
And where.
And what kind of support we needed.
Yeah. And sort of the double whammy on that one day of experiencing healthcare, rural healthcare. It was like, okay, no chance are we going to have this baby here.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think a big part of it too was like our families came and supported us in such a real way during that. Like your mom came for the first couple of days. And then as soon as your mom left, my dad was there. And he came for like a week and a half. And like he took over the kids just so I could rest. And I think that was like a huge eye opener for us where it was like, we need grandparents around.
Yeah.
Like we're just in that season. We have to be around family.
Yeah.
Because we can do this on our own, but why do it on our own if we don't have to, you know, and thrive. And I think a lot of kids thrive when they have their extended family around. Not every situation, obviously, but like our kids specifically have really close relationships with both sides of their grandparents. And it was like, okay, we need to get back to a position where this is a reality again. Yeah.
Yeah. Pregnancy is a lot of parallel feelings, or it's like a microcosm for how our whole marriage has been a little bit. You know, now that we're talking about it, where it's like these moments of like a lot of joy or a lot of like, man, God is good moments. And then a lot of longer seasons of, wow, this is tough, or how are we going to get through this, or what's around the corner. But really, at the end of it, there's this beautiful little baby in your arms. Yeah. And those have been really nice moments too.
I think those are my favorite moments.
Where
just like the whole newborn baby life.
You, me, and a baby in a hospital.
Yeah.
Those are really nice moments.
Yeah.
Not that I'm ready for another one or want another one.
Are you sure? You're sounding like it.
Moments where I had a lot of joy in our marriage, those are 4 of those moments for sure.
Yeah.
Where it was,
well, I think
sleeping with some comfortable nurses or
a pain in the butt sometimes, most of the time.
People that a pain in the butt, you know, all the questions medically, but also just long, quiet moments of just holding baby, brand new baby and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are some of my favorite moments too. And we've been lucky the last couple of babies where family, like the kids get to meet their sibling, and then grandparents kind of whisk the rest of them away for a week. And we're just given this sweet spot of a week to really bond with the new baby. And, you know.
Yeah.
Those moments are really nice.
Yeah.
Which is funny because when we had our first baby, it was like we couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
We couldn't go anywhere because who goes anywhere with a baby? And then we have our fourth. Well, that was our mindset of like.
We were shopping day 2 with our oldest at home.
No. We were shopping day 7 We were at church on day 2.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Had an AGM meeting.
I'm never going to live that down.
You're never going to live that down. But to be fair, with our 4th, 2 days after he was born, I was hosting Abby's 9th birthday party.
For real?
Yep.
I don't remember.
And I had to do a Costco run because I didn't have all the stuff.
2 days after Zeke was born?
It was like 2 days. Yeah.
No.
14. 3 days. Sorry. 14.
I guess you're right.
Yeah. He was born on a Thursday and we had the birthday party on the Saturday or Sunday. It was on a Sunday. It was after church.
Yeah.
So 3 days after. And then I had realized I didn't buy like the fruit platter and everything. And so I ran to Costco with a newborn baby and almost passed out because I had such a bad pain in my hip.
Psychotic. I can't believe we did that. I can't believe you did that.
We were at church that morning too, and everyone was like, well, what are you doing at church? And I was like, I miss people.
Yeah, for sure. Well, because when Zeke was born, it was this long process of induced and not being ready and all this stuff.
And I didn't want to see people at the end because people are like, oh, you haven't had that baby yet. And I was just like, I think I turned off my phone, everything.
And I blew through my time off before Zeke was even born.
Yeah.
Right. And so we sort of had to get back to life quickly.
Yeah, because they kept doing the induction process and then sending me home.
Yeah.
Like for a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was a bit of a higher risk pregnancy.
Well, because they
wanted.
Were they concerned about how big he was? Or how much water you were carrying?
They were concerned about how much water I was carrying. I wanted to have a VBAC.
Yeah.
And he was constantly spinning. And so they were worried that if my water broke, that the cord would come out.
Right.
And that would harm both of us.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, so complications like a natural birth after a C-section and lots of other things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that was just it was
scary and
constantly back at the hospital trying to find parking, and
thankfully parking was still free at that time. Or was it? I think because of COVID, parking was still free at the hospitals.
Right.
And we were so thankful for, because we're like, man, this is a lot of like parking to pay for if we were having to pay for this.
For sure. And then even showing up to the hospital when they ask and then they say, oh, actually there's not as many.
The rooms are.
So you guys might as well just go home. It's like, what the heck? We just got here.
I think the nurses felt bad after a while because they had actually called me at one point. They're like, there's someone who had a baby and they're leaving in like the next 2 hours. Get here. Reserve your spot on the bench kind of thing. And I was like, I'm coming.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, because they were scared of me going to natural labor and they wanted to induce, which sucks, by the way.
Yeah.
Induction sucks.
Yeah.
It's like one of the worst ways to do delivery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we do have 4 beautiful, mostly healthy kids.
Mostly healthy.
And mostly good-natured kids.
No, they're pretty good kids.
They're pretty good kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're homeschooling them right now. And it was actually nice. Like they came to work. The older girls came to work with me today and helping Abigail like sort of fight through her hate of math.
Yeah.
And her just desire.
It's a very strong hate.
It's a very strong hate.
Very strong hate.
And her desire just to like not do it anymore.
Yeah.
And the math is so stupid that she can do it. And it's this funny thing that happens when I sort of stop paying attention to her. She'll do like 10 questions in a row and be perfect. Right? But the moment I pay attention,
she's like, I can't do it.
I can't.
Life is over. I can't do it anymore.
Oh, we gotta grow through this a little bit. Where it's like, I just need you to have one mentality for the entire time of treatment.
Yeah.
Not. Yeah. After a lot of different seasons and a lot of different homes and some loss, but some.
I think even in the loss, though, there's a lot of beauty, right?
Yeah.
Which it's hard to see in the moment. But even with this whole recent situation of a chemical pregnancy, like normally the kids come into our room in the morning and I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Please get out. Like, I'm not ready to face the day yet. And you are covered in chocolate somehow. How did that happen? who let you into the peanut butter? You know? But the first couple mornings after, like, when they would come in, it was just like, oh, I'm so happy to have the kids that I have.
Right.
And then also with my friend passing away and she has 2 young kids, it was like, oh man, like I'm going to cherish these moments that I have with them because you don't know how much time you have.
Yeah.
And you don't know how many kids you're going to have. And, you know, so like, even though it sucked and it would be better to not go through any of that, it was kind of like puts things into perspective a little bit of just like, no, this is a beautiful life.
Yeah.
It's chaos and it's beautiful. Yeah.
It's exciting. I'm excited for the next 10 years of our family life,
Mm-hmm.
or 18 or 15 years in Zeke's case, where in 10 years our oldest will be 21,
Which will be crazy.
which will be crazy. And in 10 years, Zeke will be 13, almost 14.
Yeah.
Wait, how old is he now?
He's turning 3.
He's turning 3. So he'll be 12.
Like this next week.
He'll be 12, almost 13.
Yeah.
And the journey from here to there in the next 10 years, I don't want to miss.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also
Excited to get there.
I'm excited to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Because really, at 32 and 34 now, like, our lives are not even half over.
Mm-mm.
And we get to spend so much of our lives with our adult children.
Yeah.
And just, hopefully, you know,
Yeah.
experience the joy of having adult children who
Mm-hmm.
are great kids and great people.
Hopefully
we'll get there. To be determined, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be crazy because we'll be in our 40s when our kids start becoming young adults, which is just, I have I have an uncle who was like 60 when his oldest graduated kind of thing. And it's like, no, well,
yeah.
we'll be like late 30s, early 40s kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be.
Which is interesting because we have friends now who are
Just starting to have kids.
just trying to have kids. But then we also have friends who are older than us
Who are like becoming grandparents.
who are becoming grandparents.
Which is just insane that we're stuck in the middle of this like
Yeah.
whole dynamic.
Yeah. But it's been
But that'll be us. Like we'll be grandparents when everyone else is like,
yeah.
someone help with like potty training tips. It'll be weird.
But it's been not the easiest of journeys having 4 kids.
Mm-mm.
But it's been really good.
It's caused us to grow up a lot, like really fast.
Yeah.
I think.
And grow up together.
Yeah.
And not perfect. And
Yeah.
certainly not perfect. But
Nope, far from it.
But grow up together in ways that I honestly don't know who I would be without you and the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no more independent Joel left.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like and maybe for better or worse, right? But the happiest times of my life are with the family.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. I know you have a hard time when you're like apart from the family.
Mm-hmm.
Because even when it's just one of those weekends where we get away for a little bit of time, like you're so anxious to get back to the kids because you're like, I miss them and I want to see them. And
And given a little bit of breathing room,
Mm-hmm.
I remember that they are really good kids.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But when I don't have any breathing room, like
You're like stuck in this tunnel vision of like
when there's a stat holiday on a Friday,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm home Saturday, Sunday. Come Monday, I am like
ready to go back
to work, right? Or like there's Saturday, Sunday, and Monday off. It's
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, come Tuesday, I can't.
Yeah.
Like I've been around you guys for too long, and it's mostly my own character flaws showing, right? Like I'm too.
Also, when you're home, like we're out of any sense of routine, or like just not that there's a lot of routine, but just like the expectation of how things go. and then you're home. So it's like, okay, we got to do family stuff. Let's figure out this family dynamic and let's figure out what we're going to do.
Yeah.
So then everyone rhythm is just like not upset, but kind of upset. It's just thrown out of whack. And so then we're all exhausted and tired and, you know,
But
everyone's ready for dad to go back to work.
But it's good. It's all good.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I'm really thankful for this season of life where maybe not everything is perfect, but we do get to spend a lot of quality family time.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody about, what does life change look like and all those things. It was like, Manitoba is not perfect. And
for us. Yeah.
It's perfect for some people. It's not perfect for us. Like, it would be so great to be around grandparents and stuff again.
Yeah.
But there's almost nothing I would give up. Or it would be almost impossible for me to give up the amount of family time we have now. To go back or to go live somewhere else where I have to work a job that you guys can't come visit.
An insane amount of time.
Or, we have to both be working and out of the house so that our kids are in daycare. And
just to put a roof over our head.
Yeah. Some people live that and it works for them. But for us, it doesn't work. And we've learned that.
We thrive as a unit.
Yeah.
Like, we thrive when we're around each other and we get to do things together. And, like, we really struggle when we're separated for a long amount of time.
Yeah.
Like, when you were working, like, 3 jobs, that was a hard season.
Yeah.
Because I struggled to hold down the fort at home, and you struggled because you missed the kids.
Yeah.
And you would try to stay up during the hours when they were home and you were home, but then you needed sleep. And it's just like, it wasn't sustainable. And we didn't get the family time that we needed.
Yeah.
So this has been refreshing in that way, where we're getting a lot of family time.
And we're ironing out the kinks.
We're ironing out the kinks.
Family disunity. But that's been really good. And I'm really thankful for the kids and for you. And I don't want to do life sort of any other way. It'd be nice to have more money, and it'd be nice to have more freedom and nicer cars and whatever.
They're always nice.
It'd be nice to have a house with baseboards in it. But it's been a really sweet season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's been good. It's been a good reset, I think.
Yeah.
Which just makes me wonder what's next.
It does make me wonder what's next too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was good. Thanks for talking to me.